Welcome back. You're watching our special broadcast which is related to Prime Minister Modi's Laos visit. Of course, at the moment we're talking about the ASEAN-India Summit because that's what's supposed to be unfolding at Winchain, Lao PDR. He's there, of course, at the invitation of Prime Minister Somchai Siphandone. Prime Minister Modi has shared the moments of his arrival at the hotel in Laos as well. He received a grand welcome there by not just the Indian diaspora but also by the Laotian community.
And in any moment from now, Prime Minister Modi will be participating in the 21st ASEAN-India Summit today and tomorrow, the 19th East Asia Summit. And this year also marks a decade of India's Act East policy vision. And India's External Affairs Ministry spokesperson has also shared more insights as far as Prime Minister's agenda for the day one, that is today, is concerned.
Namaste. The Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi, has arrived in Vientiane, the capital of Laos. At the airport, he was received by senior ministers of the Laotian government and accorded a ceremonial welcome. But what was truly special was the warm and very significant, very meaningful welcome that he received at the hotel. The Laotian community members and Indian community members sang the Gayatri Mantra and welcomed him. They performed Bihu dance for him and welcomed him. And thereafter, the Prime Minister participated in a blessing ceremony, which was attended by senior Buddhist monks. As you know, Buddhism connects India and Laos in a very deep manner. After the Buddhist ceremony, welcome ceremony, Prime Minister witnessed an episode of Lao Ramayana performed by one of the leading theatre groups here. The episode was on Ravan Vadh, and the performance 2 days ahead of Dussehra adds its own meaning, its own significance to this particular performance which the Prime Minister witnessed. As you know, the special welcome that Prime Minister received by the community speaks of India's and highlights India's age-old ties and the civilizational connect that we share with this beautiful country.
And let's also bring to you what the MA spokesperson mentioned about the performance of the Ramayana. The PM witnessed an episode of Lao Ramayana called Phalak Phalam or Pralak Praram, performed by the prestigious Royal Theatre of Luang Prabang.
Indian epic Ramayana continues to be celebrated in Laos also, and the epic reflects the much shared heritage and age-old civilizational linkages between the two countries, that is India and Laos. Several facets of Indian culture and tradition have been practiced and preserved in Laos for many centuries. The two countries are closely working to illuminate their shared heritage.
Several dignitaries, including Minister of Home Affairs, Minister of Education and Sports, Governor of Bank of Lao PDR and Mayor of Vientiane were present on the occasion of this performance, which is pertaining to, as the NA spokesperson mentioned, Ravan Vadh, which is the slaying of the Decca-headed demon king by Lord Ram. And recently, Lao PDR also issued out a postage stamp of Ramlala of Ayodhya, making it the first country in the entire world to issue a postage stamp depicting the revered deity in that child form.
Absolutely. And Prime Minister Modi also participated in a blessing ceremony by senior Buddhist monks of Central Buddhist Fellowship Organization of Laos. This was led by Most Venerable Mahavet Masinai, the revered abbot of Sri Saket Temple in Vientiane.
Now, shared Buddhist heritage represents yet another facet of close civilizational bonds between India and Lao PDR. And the Prime Minister also witnessed the exhibition on restoration of and the conservation of Vat Phou temple complex done by the Archaeological Survey of India in Laos. The ASI, of course, India's main conservation body. The Vat Phou temple complex, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, is being restored and conserved by the ASI, and it's believed to be over 1,000 years old. The Champasak cultural landscape stretches from the sacred mountain of Linga Parvat, which connotes that it was a Shiv temple, and it goes to the river Mekong as well. The Vat Phou temple was originally built as a Hindu temple complex in the early 11th century.
That's right. The Archaeological Survey of India has also been undertaking some amount of exceptional work for restoration and conservation of the Vat Phou temple, which got mentioned as a UNESCO World Heritage Site in Laos. And this Vat Phou is a symbol of close civilizational connections and heritage between the two nations. We take a closer look at this unique project under India's assistance, which is a very special element of their cooperation.
Echoes of India, Vat Phou, and the sacred connection. India's historic and cultural ties with Southeast Asia run deep, forming a rich tapestry of shared heritage. Under Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi's visionary leadership, the transition from the Look East policy to the Act East policy has significantly bolstered India's engagement with Southeast Asian nations. This dynamic shift has not only enhanced diplomatic and economic cooperation, but also fostered collaborative efforts in preserving and restoring ancient temples across the region. India shares a deep and enduring relationship with the Lao People's Democratic Republic, exemplified by an ancient Lord Shiva temple structure dating back to the 11th century. Nestled in the heart of Laos, on a sacred mountain stands Vat Phou, a reflection of India's civilizational influence. Though built in distant land, it remains profoundly connected to the spiritual and cultural essence of the Indian subcontinent. For centuries, Indian traders and pilgrims ventured across land and sea, carrying with them far more than spices and textiles. They brought tales of gods, sacred art, and spiritual traditions that would leave a lasting imprint on the future of Southeast Asia. Vat Phou remains a testament to the profound spiritual bond between India and Southeast Asia. Through its art, religion, and devotion, the echoes of a shared civilization still resonate today. As time progressed, India's influence endured. Vat Phou, like many temples throughout Southeast Asia, evolved with the spread of Theravada Buddhism. Yet its foundation in Indian philosophy remained deeply embedded in the rituals practiced by the Lao people. To this day, Vat Phou continues to embody a living spirit. An annual festival, steeped in ancient traditions, celebrates not only the settlement of the Lao people, but also the timeless connection with India that has lasted for over 1,000 years. In 2007, Government of India and Lao People's Democratic Republic jointly launched an initiative to preserve this shared cultural heritage for its posterity. The Archaeological Survey of India has been actively involved in the conservation of this UNESCO World Heritage Site for the last 15 years as per the conservation principles and in close coordination with UNESCO's expert advisory group and active participation of local artisans and craftsmen. This rich history of cultural exchange laid the foundation for the preservation efforts that continue today. Vat Phou stands as a vibrant symbol of the enduring spiritual relationship between India and Southeast Asia. The whispers of a shared civilization continue to reverberate across time.
And let's also play out what the Prime Minister himself has tweeted out in terms of the performance that he witnessed of the Laotian Ramayana, because it was a very special one just a couple of days ahead of the Shera, which is Vijay Dashmi, when Ravan was actually killed. This performance also pertained to Ravan Vadh, which is the slaying of the 10-headed demon king by Lord Ram.
It is also representation of how the people of Lao are in touch or perhaps their belief, their strong connect and belief with Ramayana. And interestingly, in a social media post, Prime Minister Modi noted that it was heartening to see the people in Laos remain in touch with the Ramayana.
in yet another moment of cultural and spiritual significance, Prime Minister Modi met with respected monks and spiritual leaders in Lao PDR.
In fact, the meeting celebrated the recent honor given to the Pali language by the Indian people, acknowledging its vital role in Buddhist teachings and heritage. And during the gathering, the atmosphere was filled with mutual respect and warmth. The monks expressed their joy at this recognition, highlighting how it fosters a deeper connection between the two countries.
And after the meeting, the PM took to X, formerly Twitter, sharing his reflections, and I quote him as well, met respected monks and spiritual leaders in Lao PDR who are happy to see the honor being given to Pali by the Indian people. I am grateful to them for their blessings. The tweet resonated widely, emphasizing the enduring bond between the two nations and the shared commitment to preserving cultural heritage. The spiritual leaders in turn offered their blessings for peace and unity, reinforcing the importance of collaboration in nurturing shared values.
We continue to have special guests on this very special broadcast. Dr. Satoru Nagao continues to be with us all the way from Tokyo in Japan. Really appreciate your patience, Dr. Nagao. Thank you very much. And also Ambassador Amrit. Thank you very much, sir. And in our Delhi studio, Professor Bharadwaj. Ambassador, coming to you first, sir. In your experience, have you, do you recall this kind of a culturally and spiritually, if I may be allowed to use the word, loaded with such a strong resonance of India's spiritual and cultural connect, this kind of reception being accorded to any dignitary, in this case, of course, Prime Minister Narendra Modi. You have, the mantras, the chanting of mantras, Gayatri mantras, to Ganesh Stuti, to the Laos version of Ramayana, everything
and
Indian.
Bihu as well.
And of course, the icing on the cake, the, the regional folklore of India's northeast Assam, Bihu dance.
Yeah, this type of cultural exchanges, while have been there for some time, and in the Look East policy and now Act East policy, we have been emphasizing action, in performance. And like this year, India hosted that 7th International Ramayana Festival, where Laos also had participated. But the intensity and the details in exchange program under the Prime Minister's leadership, Prime Minister Modi's leadership, appears to have gained further deeper ground. For example, you mentioned about the Gayatri mantras, which were not touched earlier. And so it is only with this deepening which is more visible, and India's role in, for example, emphasis on the Pali language. And in India, if we read this history, where Buddhism spread to Southeast Asia, and even here, in fact, recently, I had the privilege of visiting Kushinagar, where the founder, great Lord Buddha, has died, and I had visited that place about 35-40 years ago, and it was then that very desolate place with not much activities around. But now we see many countries from Southeast Asia, have now put up their own temples in this region, whether you say Thailand or Vietnam, even China has a big temple in that place. And a lot of tourists and people on religious tour come to this place. And this current government, both at the state level and the center level, has been pouring in funds to revive these ancient heritages, and the monuments are also in a better shape than what I had observed 30-40 years ago. Then a lot of cultural exchange programs have been happening. The promotion of Pali, now Nalanda University has started functioning, and we hope that more exchanges, especially from the Southeast Asian countries, would come and study there. But in India itself, the Buddhism, except for some pockets, had died down. In history, we read that there was a little bit of dichotomy or a fight for supremacy between various religious movements in India at that time, in those BC centuries. So now that in the current world context where we see a lot of conflicts and wars going on, and the region, Southeast Asia region, also having been threatened, and if God forbid something happens there, in any of the regions, it can be a very big devastating consequence. It will have very devastating consequences. So these cultural aspects in trying to bring syncretism and not this conflict is very important, and therefore this practicing in a deeper level is likely to lead to more emotional and spiritual connect, and which will have spin-offs in other areas. That is definitely happening. We see it to be happening now, more or less. Yes.
Okay. Professor Bhardwaj, what do you make of these sort of events unfolding right from the moment the Prime Minister landed, not just the Guard of Honor, which is almost a standard practice in diplomatic sort of engagements when leaders visit and land in a particular destination or a different nation, a partner nation. But this sort of a very, how should we call it, very interpersonal or inter-community sort of an engagement, welcome that has been accorded to Prime Minister Modi. Do you think this is something that is standard, par for course, or is it something unique and exceptional?
No, definitely. See, what Prime Minister, wherever you are, that he is going, he is visiting, he is trying to highlight the Indian cultural connect, meeting the people, local people, as well as Indian communities in these countries. Interesting point is that, while you read Jawaharlal Nehru's discovery of India, and there he defines this entire region, from Persian world to the Southeast Asian countries as Southern Asia. This is one cultural connect, and these are culturally connected, culturally connected by their faith, by their ethnicity, by their language, and most of the languages in Southeast Asia, you will see that they are either originated from Pali or from Sanskrit language. But very interesting, when I see in that Bihu has been performed in Laos, that connect you can see from Assam to Myanmar, Assam and Manipur, and they are bordering with Myanmar, and Myanmar is bordering with Laos. So this belt of ethnic or cultural connect is connecting the people's culture, their language, their performance, their ritual. The second very interesting point that I witness is that the Ramayana performance in Laos. This has been in number of the Southeast Asian countries that maybe the content is same, but the performance style and that could be a different one. This is happening in Laos, but this is also happening if you will go to Yogyakarta, and there you will saw the Prambanan temple, and every evening you will see that the Ramayana is performed. When you will go to beyond Yogyakarta and then you go to Bali, that everywhere you will find that Ganesha's statues are in front of everybody's house.
At the entrance of houses, yes.
That connect is very strong from not a single faith. You can see that Hinduism till 10th century, you can see Buddhism that has been spreaded through China to Southeast Asian countries 7th century on. Then you will see that even the Indo-Islamic culture, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, when he visited Brunei, and there he went to mosque, that mosque, the architect was inspired from the Taj Mahal. So you can say that Indo-Islamic culture is very syncretic, very inclusive, and that influence from the. So throughout this Persian world to the Southeast Asian countries, you will find that we have very strong cultural connect, and those are either inspired from Hinduism or Buddhism or Islamic culture and all that, and this is bringing this South East Asian cultural community very close to India.
Yes, since you raised this point, let me take this thought to Dr. Nagao, who is a very keen observer, writer, scholar of not only India and ASEAN, but the cultural, aspect of it. Since I think we can make out you're wearing a Indian style jacket on the broadcast, Dr. Nagao. Yes. Having said that, what does this say, this expression of acknowledgement of cultural and civilizational linkages between India and Laos in particular, having to choose this reception put together not only by the Indian community, but Laotian nationals as well were part of this reception. What does this say about the way Laos is looking at India or getting inspired by India, whether it is the Bihu dance, choosing that particular folklore of India, to Gayatri Mantra chanting or Ganesha Puja chanting, or most importantly, the performance of the Laotian version of Indian epic Ramayana?
I'm not an expert of the culture issue, so that's why it's a little bit difficult to explain or answer this question. But at the same time, I want to introduce one important fact, scientific fact, because I'm Japanese, and the Japanese believe the origin of Japanese came from India through continents, China and Russia or Korean Peninsula to come to Japan. But the recent scientific research identified there is a DNA of Japanese directly came from India, not go through the continental side. This means that even if there is no historical evidence, science already proved that there is a root. There is a root of the people from India, Southeast Asia, Taiwan, and Japan. That is a very important fact. So when we talk about cultural connectivity between India and Laos or Southeast Asia, yes, this root exists because this root connects to Japan. The science proved it. The Genome Project and check the DNA project, scientifically it has proved. So that's why I'm not an expert of the cultural issue, but so I cannot say about this detail of this kind of the event. But at the same time, there is a high possibility that similar culture we are sharing.
Satriya.
Okay. Right. No, I basically why I asked you this question, you've covered many ASEAN summits, but this sort of reception, do you think has been unique in many ways, unprecedented in many ways, a bit of historic in many ways, getting this cultural, spiritual, heritage dimension to the summitry? Very briefly, Dr. Nagao.
Okay. We should realize how similarity. That is the first step and the important step to realize we are friends, we are group. So India's inclusive culture is accepting the diversity, I believe. So that's why India can show the leadership in the world. That's what happened and we can see just now.
Yes.
That is my analysis in this case. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, it was a completely immersive experience with so many different elements to it. And very, very heartening to see how the Laotian people themselves not only welcome Prime Minister Modi in Hindi, which is one of the prime Indian languages, but also they recited Sanskrit shlokas and the Prime Minister was also singing with them when those shlokas were being performed.
Yes. We can in fact maybe go back to those visuals and just revisit those visuals, very touching visuals. You wanted to add to that what makes this reception unique in many ways?
No, definitely. That's why I was wondering that all the cultural connects that while you are visiting, you are going these countries, all Southeast Asian countries, either you go to Thailand or you go to Vietnam and then you go to Laos, and all these countries you will find these cultural connectivity with India, Indian culture, like Bihu performance, Ramayana performance, that you can see, it can remind you that how deeply you are connected and how long you have been connected. As I correctly remember that the Chola dynasty in the 2nd century itself had very strong sway in all the Southeast Asian countries, including Laos and all that. So it reminds that the cultural connect with these countries and bringing this cultural aspects is in fact India's prime objectives, to use the soft power to enhance our economic and strategic depth and reach to these Southeast Asian countries, because India is known as a soft power. The Chinese premium has appreciated India's effort to increase its soft power
Sir,
strength.
look at this visual. You have an Indian Prime Minister,
Yeah.
and the body language, the gesture, the rendition of shlokas. I think it's a very powerful visual.
Of course, that, and you know that reciting of Gayatri
Yes.
mantra,
Yes.
that itself, and that people are following Pradhan Mantri Narendra Modi, that in this Gayatri mantras. So you can see this. These are the they are taking you, that you do not, I am not feeling that this is happening in India or India's northeast, or it is happening in Laos and Vietnam.
You can't
so
make
these
out.
are
You can't make out
and
any
I tell you
difference.
one very interesting point again in Act East policy also. While because Look East policy was just confined with the Southeast Asian countries, but in Act East policy, Pradhan Mantri Narendra Modi has added 3 more countries, where China, South Korea and Japan. And when you will go to Japan and you will see the temples in Japan and all that, then again you will find very strong cultural connect. Either the Buddhist temple, they are having influence of Hinduism and all that. So you can see this diplomatic efforts involving cultural connect, and where the physical connect and people to people connect will definitely will take the India's objectives in Southeast Asian countries, and it would minimize what the shadows I have been talking about, the Chinese shadows in all these Southeast Asian countries will be balanced by the Indian cultural roots that has been there for the centuries, as
Certainly,
I
sir.
mentioned.
And Ambassador Lagoon, does it also bring out a bit of a contrast where India and China are concerned, where India clearly, it's demonstrated, has strong ancient historical civilizational links with so many of these countries in
ASEAN
Southeast Asia, yet unlike China, we don't lay claim to any of their territory.
Yeah, that's I mean, that has been India's legacy since history. Where India did not lay claim, but as it is mainly through business and soft power, as Professor and Dr. Nagawa were mentioning. Where these ancient links, which, so for example, the Chola dynasty, which used to be very powerful in Tamil Nadu at that time. They went, but they were mostly traders. They spread their cultural influence, and the other legacy of that period we have, which we call the Angkor Wat in Phnom Penh in Cambodia, near Phnom Penh, which was also restored, incidentally, by the Archaeological Survey of India. Or we have links to current Vietnam. Which was Kingdom of Champa at that time. So unlike these were all traders and cultural influences of India spreading across. We don't read about any military expeditions going to these regions to take over these lands. So that legacy has continued, and that makes to a large extent the Southeast Asian countries very comfortable with India, that unlike its northern neighbor, India does not have any territorial ambitions, and history has proven itself, and even the current dispensation through soft power and building up the their capacities, whether through human efforts or through technological spread, is just to develop both the sides mutually and to find common points, both in the cultural aspects, which also leads to the emotional makeup of the two societies from both the regions. And incidentally, as Professor mentioned, they're adding China, Japan, and Korea to this whole gamut. It is hoped that people will understand that all the region, that we work for common good through these common threads, rather than to look for conflicts. So it is good that we cooperate, and history has proven that when we cooperate, everybody flourishes. And the security threats, etc., hopefully will go down. Yeah,
so, Dr. Nagao, talking about conflict in the context of current geopolitical mayhem, if I am allowed to use this word, in certain part of the globe, where world is virtually divided into two and now maybe more, in blocks. This ASEAN, comparatively peaceful, stable, and in this ASEAN scheme of things, India's consolidated position. In a way, why is India more important for ASEAN group of nations than ever before? What makes India more important?
Of course, the current situation makes India popular in the Southeast Asia. That's true. Because US and China, or US and Russia, the competition has happened in the world, and both sides ask the Southeast Asian country to choose the side. Of course, they did not say it. We asked them to choose the side, but indeed, the current situation demands them, which side you are, something like that. In this case, of course, India faces a similar situation. That's why, because from Southeast Asia, India shares the same situation. That's one thing. That is one of the reasons India is popular in the Southeast Asia. But at the same time, another reason is also exists. Another reason is, indeed, Europe or Middle East, now they are facing the big conflict. But Southeast Asia, India, this is the region, still the situation is very peaceful. So that's why, yes, there is a threat of China, and the competition could be escalated in the future. But at the same time, if the countries success to deter such kind of the conflict, they can enjoy the situation to develop faster than other places. So that's why this is a chance, and India can provide very important things to deter conflict and develop very fast, because India could be the security provider.
Okay.
Because is rising, and India is economy provider too, because supply resources, market, everything.
Force multiplier in terms of providing stability, security, neutrality, balance, and much more.
And strength,
And
overall
strength,
strength
yes.
enhancement as well. Now, let's just get to another unique aspect of what we are expecting will be unfolding as part of this trip of Prime Minister Modi, Lao ASEAN. A unique edition of a perfume by an Indian origin entrepreneur. Sukhtavi Chaudhary is being given to delegates and VVIPs at the ASEAN Summit. Chaudhary has developed this perfume under the motto of product of Lao and gift of ASEAN. He is also going to be gifting an edition of that to Prime Minister Modi during his visit to Laos. Indian origin entrepreneur has established a first of its kind perfume factory in Laos in 2014 and is currently exporting its fragrances to Gulf countries, China as well as Korea. And Chaudhary said that Prime Minister Modi's visit is a proud moment for him and the Indian community in Laos.
We are joined in by first generation entrepreneur Mr. Chaudhary, who is the owner of a perfume brand in Vientiane in Lao PDR, and he will be presenting a very significant perfume to Prime Minister Narendra Modi. What do you have to say? What is special about this? Where's the idea come from?
This is the Lao Asian perfume. We make it from the product of Lao, gift from Asian. and this is the chair of 2024 in the Laos, chair of in the ASEAN, and not very easy to make this perfume because not only Laos, because if the other Asian 10 country also, I keep it always in my brain. That also one kind of challenging for me. But finally I make it. This is the Laotian perfume.
Has there been any Indian influences in the fragrances that you create?
Yes, yes, of course, there are some Indian influences is here. From some is coming from Manipur, Nagaland. Some oil I put it here also.
You're also known to create a perfume from the traditional, or we can say a special Lao flower. What is that?
Yes, special Lao flower is the Dok Champa. Dok Champa is the national flower in the Laos. When they have the basis.
Cutting across live to Laos, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is attending the India-ASEAN Summit in Vientiane, Laos. These are the visuals.
परिवार के साथ इस बैठक में 11वीं बार भाग लेते हुए मैं गौरवान्वित महसूस कर रहा हूं। 10 वर्ष पहले मैंने भारत की एक्ट ईस्ट पॉलिसी की घोषणा की थी। पिछले एक दशक में इस नीति ने भारत और आसियान देशों के ऐतिहासिक संबंधों को नई ऊर्जा, दिशा और गति दी है। आसियान सेंट्रलिटी को प्रमुखता देते हुए 2019 में हमने इंडो पैसिफिक ओशन इनिशिएटिव लॉन्च किया था। ये आसियान आउटलुक ऑन इंडो पैसिफिक को कॉम्प्लीमेंट करता है। पिछले वर्ष क्षेत्रीय सुरक्षा और स्थिरता के लिए मैरीटाइम एक्सरसाइज की शुरुआत की गई है। पिछले 10 वर्षों में आसियान क्षेत्र के साथ हमारा व्यापार लगभग 2 गुना होकर $130 बिलियन से अधिक हो गया है। आज 7 आसियान देशों के साथ भारत ने डायरेक्ट फ्लाइट कनेक्टिविटी है और शीघ्र ही ब्रुनेई के साथ भी सीधी उड़ानें शुरू होगी। तिमोर लेस्ते में हमने नया दूतावास खोला है। आसियान क्षेत्र में सिंगापुर पहला देश था जिसके साथ हमने फिनटेक कनेक्टिविटी स्थापित की और अब ये सफलता अन्य देशों में भी दोहराई जा रही है। पीपल सेंट्रिक अप्रोच हमारी डेवलपमेंट पार्टनरशिप का आधार है। 300 से अधिक आसियान छात्रों को नालंदा यूनिवर्सिटी में स्कॉलरशिप का लाभ मिला है। नेटवर्क ऑफ यूनिवर्सिटीज लॉन्च किया गया है। लाओ, कंबोडिया, वियतनाम, म्यांमार, इंडोनेशिया में साझी विरासत और धरोहर के संरक्षण के लिए काम किया गया है। कोविड महामारी हो या फिर प्राकृतिक आपदा, मानवीय दायित्व उठाते हुए हमने एक दूसरे को सहायता दी है। विभिन्न क्षेत्रों में सहयोग के लिए साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी फंड, डिजिटल फंड और ग्रीन फंड स्थापित किए गए हैं। भारत ने इनमें $30 मिलियन से अधिक का योगदान किया है। परिणाम स्वरूप आज हमारा सहयोग अंडर वाटर से लेकर स्पेस तक फैला है। यानी पिछले दशक में हमारी भागीदारी हर प्रकार से व्यापक हुई है और ये प्रसन्नता का विषय है कि 2022 में हमने इसे कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव स्ट्रेटेजिक पार्टनरशिप का दर्जा दिया था। साथियों, हम एक दूसरे के पड़ोसी हैं, ग्लोबल साउथ के साथी सदस्य हैं और विश्व में तेज गति से ग्रो करने वाला क्षेत्र है। हम शांतिप्रिय देश हैं, एक दूसरे की राष्ट्रीय अखंडता और संप्रभुता का सम्मान करते हैं और अपने युवाओं के उज्जवल भविष्य के प्रति हम कमिटेड हैं। मेरा मानना है कि 21वीं सदी एशियन सेंचुरी भारत और आसियान देशों की सेंचुरी है। आज जब विश्व के कई हिस्सों में संघर्ष और तनाव की स्थिति है, तब भारत और आसियान की मित्रता, समन्वय, संवाद और सहयोग बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण है। आसियान की सफल अध्यक्षता के लिए मैं लाओ पीडीआर के प्रधानमंत्री सोनसाई सिपांदोन को हार्दिक बधाई देता हूं। मुझे विश्वास है कि आज की हमारी बैठक भारत और आसियान साझेदारी में नए आयाम जोड़ेगी। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
Well, those were Prime Minister Narendra Modi's words at the ASEAN-India Summit, which is taking place right now in Vientiane in Laos PDR. That's where Prime Minister Modi has travelled for 2 days, and we've just seen the beginning of his interactions. This is the first day, and we've seen how he's been greeted in a resounding manner, unprecedented manner really in Vientiane. And then, of course, what he's had to say about this particular summit, what kind of an effort has been made, particularly during the last 10 years, through the Act East policy in ensuring that India and ASEAN nations grow their relationship to unprecedented levels. He gave a summary of how things have progressed really, in terms of putting across how trade has more than doubled to $130 billion. And he said that the issue of connectivity, again, a very small example he gave, that now there are direct flights between 7 ASEAN nations, and pretty soon there will be direct flights between India and Brunei as well. So that is also one aspect, but there are multiple areas. And he mentioned some more of those, didn't he?
Yes. It was a brief opening statement, but setting the tone for India's broader ASEAN vision. As Gautam pointed out, Prime Minister started with recapitulating the distance covered in the last decade or 10 years, the shift from Look East to Act East policy, where Prime Minister started by saying that this is his 11th attendance at the ASEAN Summit, and he spoke about how, towards the concluding remarks, I think that's one of the headlines here in India, that 21st century is the Asian century belonging to India and ASEAN countries. Prime Minister talked about how India is a peace-loving nation which respects regional integrity, regional and territorial integrity and sovereignty of the rest of the ASEAN nations. Prime Minister talked about how the last 1 decade has been a decade of cooperation, collaboration and convergences between India and many of the ASEAN nations, and these collaborations have also reached heights till space. There was a mention, specific
he said
mention
from undersea to space, is how the cooperation expanded, and the contrast that was drawn from so many other regions of the world where there is conflict, there is peace. I mean, these are nations that do not have any issues, any sort of a dispute right now, which has escalated to the sense that it becomes a conflict, a military conflict with each other, which is a big plus for furthering cooperation in this region.
And talking about cooperation, Gautam, he also spoke about how India has contributed in a big way, $30 million. He spoke about the funds in particular in context of that. Science and Technology Fund, Digital Fund, Green Fund and Science and Technology Fund. And he also touched upon the cooperation during the COVID times, the tough times, where India was also much ahead of the curve and leading from the front, especially when it comes to providing assistance to the ASEAN nations.
Yes, and he also mentioned fintech connectivity, because that's where India and Singapore have taken the initiative among these 10 countries in the ASEAN, and he said that pretty soon he's confident that it will be expanded further as well. So lots to talk about, where a short opening statement of Prime Minister Modi is concerned for the ears of the other ASEAN leaders, because this is the ASEAN-India specific summit. The ASEAN summit is overall an engagement where a lot of other countries are also involved, including China and the US and others, but this is specific to India, to ASEAN and India, and we'll be talking about this further as well as we go along through the course of our broadcast.
Yes.
But for the moment, thanks for joining us.
There was also this mention of people-centric approach. I think that sums it up. People-centric approach to the development, from people-centric approach to the robust development partnership. Well, I think we need to wrap it up, but we should thank our guests.
As well. Yes, thank you, Professor Bhardwaj and Professor Nagawa, as well as Ambassador Lugun, for staying with us for this duration, and I'm sure we'll be taking more updates from Vientiane as we go along, because still a lot to go as far as the day is concerned. But thanks for watching the broadcast with us for the moment.
Thank you.